How much will they have to wait for this new infrastructure to go straight into their homes?
By the time we reach year 2020, all of these water pipes should be replaced. That's the 18,000 homes that you're talking about. So all of the water pipes leading to those 18,000 homes should be replaced. As you mentioned, there is a pretty price tag to that. We can bring up some of the details of this lawsuit, which is the result of this deadline for 20. The decision, well, it was a historic moment because, as we know, it led to years of these Flint residents not being able to rely on their own water as a source. And they're still
coming from looking at the reports for all of these years and how old and poisoned it is. It just doesn't sound like it's enough. But onto a timeline issue, replacing the pipe's not going to happen overnight. So what's going to happen in the interim?
Well, as I mentioned, we still have people that are relying on bottled water, still not trusting their water sources. There's going to be massive amounts of testing happening over these next few years to make sure that the water is in fact safe once they replace these pipes. But during this, or through this settlement, there's also a couple of other things that it's addressing. They're going to have to make water delivery still available through June of this year. So
it's like it's free, or subsidized at least.
They will be paying for that, so the residents won't be paying for that.
Okay, good. All right.
There will be distribution centers where you could call an information hotline and have water for you through August. The state's also going to have to maintain its water filter program, where they are not only providing filters to the residents, but also educating people, going door to door, talking about the use of water filters. They're going to have to maintain that through 2018 as well. So a lot of other steps.
Your home right now.
Not going to happen.
Total nightmare. Thank you very much for keeping up on this, RT Simone Del Rosario. As someone who had a grandparent suffer from Parkinson's, there would seem to be a lot of people who would want to step up and do this. What type of investment could this technology attract?
Absolutely. Right off the bat, you can think of the number of applications that this has for the field of neuroscience. But the really cool thing about this story is that Elon Musk isn't the only player in the game. We heard from the Wall Street Journal that Brian Johnson, he is the founder of a payment company called Braintree. He's reportedly investing $100 million in a separate Kickstarter called Kernel that has a similar mission to Elon Musk's Neuralink Corp. Facebook has reportedly put out ads for, I know, right? Everybody's getting into this game. It's a cool story, but they're putting out ads for engineers with a focus on brain-computer integration.
Yeah, they're a user for marketing, okay?
Hey, but they haven't made any public statements about what sort of things that they're up to with this type of technology, but some people, this one won't be shocking anybody, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. They've also been investing
That's the one I want to hear about.
In brain
Love
implant
DARPA.
technology. But to your question, specific to Neuralink Corp and the development of the neural lace device by Elon Musk, he's expected to shell out a good portion of that money, as well as funding the project with capital borrowed against the equity from companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and even PayPal, who he's also a co-founder of. He's in everything.
Yes,
he's in everything.
You know what?
The fact that he has time
he's in people's dreams.
to do this kind of thing. But I mentioned the medical applications. This is one of the ways for human beings to keep that edge over machines, as artificial intelligence
but you can also see it the other way around,
will eventually surpass human intelligence. It's a real thing. This is the inevitability.
Well, if you had to choose between Facebook and Elon Musk doing this to you, I would go for Elon Musk, just from a science perspective. But let's talk about legalities.
He's a cooler billionaire than Mark Zuckerberg, is that why?
Let's be honest. The man shoots rockets up into space. Now, the other thing that comes to mind is it's a surgical procedure, the legalities, but also if I had a serious disease and this offered me something and I had no choices, I would sign up for it, but still there are legal caveats.
And that's one of the downsides, right? If and when this has a commercial application, people would essentially be opting for brain surgery, or at the very least be opting for a device to be injected into them. But there's been naysayers, just about everything that Elon Musk has tried in the past. The biggest obstacle, like you said, is going to be by way of government regulations. But as technology changes, that's an obstacle that that can be overcome. So it's a matter of time before we see this being commonplace.
The man throws on
We're already
a tux
putting chips in our pets. Why not put stuff in our own bodies?
Exactly, right? Especially if, you're suffering and you need help. Thank you very much, RT correspondent Manuel Rapalo.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Bianca, why are lawmakers like McCaskill so convinced that it's primarily the fault of pharma companies? After all, they're the ones who give you the pain meds when you get out of surgery, right? It's supposed to be a good thing, so why is he hammering in on them?
So their state's doctors prescribed more opioids than they were people. So they're saying this is clearly the result of influence from big pharma companies that were pushing more aggressive sales tactics to doctors and insurance companies.
Now, aside from the influence of the industry as a whole, what other circumstances, outside circumstances, should we consider, other than people have a natural tendency to be addicted to really strong substances?
There are certainly a lot of other social factors, certainly addiction rates and overdoses from those addictions. And the reason they say addictions climbed was because of an increase in reported pain. So a lot of more patients were going to doctors.
Yeah, but you claim pain and there you go. And then you're in pain because you're in an addiction.
But then they're wondering, why is there this increase in pain if they weren't addicted in the first place and they didn't know? And that goes back to a lot of economic factors like earnings potential and education. Absolutely. So it's all really linked together. While the pharmaceutical industry definitely had a role, there are a lot of other social factors that are heavily involved in the rise of addictions.
Right. And opioids used as a therapy to get you off an addiction. The insurance companies are in collusion with that. We all know that. Can't wait till they take the hill as well. Thank you very much, Boom Bust Bianca Vicini. Protectionist policies seem to be the flavor of the day here in the United States, but according to Canada's bank governor, the costs of heading in that direction are steep, at least for that country. RT's Alex Mihails. Here's Boom Bust correspondent Manuel Rapolo.
Yes, now in the hands of President.
To 10 years, net neutrality, internet privacy regulations. What's the bottom line here? I mean, what does this vote actually change for consumers in a noticeable way?
Yeah, well, that's the irony of the thing. The rules by the FCC that were put in place last year haven't actually had a chance to take effect. So that resolution that passed the House and Senate that was designed to block those rules from taking effect, the Republicans essentially have gotten their way. So when we ask what changes now with this new law, effectively, nothing changes. It's a continuation of what we had before. But what if the rules had stayed in place? Under the FCC guidelines, internet service providers, so Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, they would have a federal mandate to require customers or internet users explicit consent before using their personal information for the purpose of advertisement. So what type of your email communications? We're talking about the most personal aspects of a person's life that exists in the digital realm. So with that resolution that passed this week, which invokes the 3 months since President Trump has taken office, it's been used on three separate occasions. And now that this is cleared the House and Senate, it goes before President Trump for signature, and that could be
more on this topic for us.
Yeah, so apparently no matter what industry you work in, especially if you're part of the 1%, robots are here to take your jobs. That's just according to latest research.
Differ from earlier research on automation. This has been something we've been looking at least since the Industrial Revolution, but these revelations are obviously very important to follow.
Yeah, so there is a big difference between then and now. In the past, earlier reports on automation were a little more positive, and that's because researchers looked at automation and said, listen, it is going to cut jobs, but as a result, we're also going to see creation of new jobs. For example, at a manufacturing plant, you might see job losses at the bottom because of new equipment, but that would in turn create jobs for engineers or security technologists or something else. They figured it would balance out. And then there are also other industries like banking that automation has been somewhat good for. If you think of ATMs and just mobile banking, I mean, we don't need bank tellers every day, or we don't need them as much as we used to, but their employment has, like your own.
Or even managing it on the other end of a phone or a computer.
Exactly.
You still got to have the customer service. It's going to change.
If there's a problem, you need to talk to a human and not a robot. However, the reports on automation now are a little more negative because researchers are seeing that their expectations of these new jobs being created as a result of the other job losses are not happening. We're not seeing all these great new jobs being created. All we're seeing is those jobs being eliminated, and what's left, seeing their wages being pushed down.
Okay, so we've got to see that replacement. On Tuesday, we talked about social factors that are having an impact. What does automation play in that role?
Right. So on Tuesday, the topic was a little different. We were talking about addiction rates and why they're increasing. Part was because of the pharmaceutical industry, and we know that's a whole other topic. But there are also outside factors that are leading to addiction. And in research from 2015, two researchers from Princeton found that doctors were seeing a reported increase in pain from their patients. And the reason these researchers think there was an increase in pain reported was because of economic factors like job loss. And a lot of that job loss was due to automation, especially for the white working class.
You mean physical pain or emotional?
Physical pain,
okay.
Both. I mean, both. They're related. So because of these economic factors like automation and also globalization, it's leading to very serious health crises across the United States.
Physical and emotional health because of unemployment. You could see it differently as far as being emotionally and mentally incapable of handling that and then getting stuck on a drug and then wanting to go and self-medicate. But it's interesting to talk about physical health effects of that. It's something people don't talk about.
It's not something you would think of immediately when talking about automation.
That's really interesting. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Boom Bianca Fascini.
Country that would be bigger than China, and that's India. We know that in India, gold is something that's a very precious, held very dear to most families. If you've ever been to an Indian wedding, it's gold, 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 gold. So it's about 20,000 tons privately held in India alone. But if we go to reserves, some countries obviously have like bigger reserves than others. So United States, Germany, Italy, France.
Well, if you lose your ATM card, not to worry if you're a customer at scandal-ridden Wells Fargo. And the latest tool to revamp its sinking reputation after employees blew the whistle on a multitude of fake accounts it opened itself. Now cash can be deposited into the bank's machines around the country without that piece of plastic. You just log on to the phone app, get temporary access to a code, then use that along with your regular PIN to get the machine to complete the deposit. JP Morgan, Chase, and Bank of America say they're going to follow suit. But what people really want, don't lie, you want it too. You want to have this much anticipated development also be able to give you your cash as well. Of course, it handily cuts down on the need for bank branches and tellers. That's all for now. Check out the show on YouTube, youtube.com/BoomBustRT. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Now that Article 50 has been triggered, the UK has officially begun the Brexit process. That means laying out new laws of the land as much as it means deterring pro-EU protesters. Boombust Bianca Fascini has sentiment. Interesting word there. Is it possible the UK could take this all back and be the prodigal son and come back to the EU?
Anything is possible, as we've learned in this past year.
Yes.
But, I mean, that's just looking really, really unlikely. The EU has made it clear that they would like the UK to stay. But so has the UK. They've made it clear that they're really not regretting their decision. It doesn't mean that they're not nervous, but they're ready to move forward. At the same time, they have very high expectations. The Brits are still pretty happy about leaving the EU.
I like that word, regrets. And it'll be interesting to see what the sentiment from the EU does to the streets in the UK in those protests.
We'll see.
Thank you very much, Boombust Bianca Fascini. Layoffs for workers, bonuses for high-paid execs. I'm sure it's a story you've heard before, and it doesn't happen only here in the States. Of course, to add insult to injury in Canada, this equation often happens with taxpayer money helping line the pockets of the bigwigs. To explain, we are joined now by Alex. Well, it's a start. A new bill is making its way to President Trump's desk for a signature, which will allow internet service providers, or ISPs, to sell user data and web browsing history without their consent or knowledge. So cue the GoFundMe accounts to fight back by buying lawmakers' data. Case in point.